All right, we got more great stuff here from Andrew Callahan and Guregian in today's Boston Herald. They write, quote, as Patricia came under outside fire as the face of the offense, Joe Judge drew increasing criticism from within. Belichick would blast him in practice, and it wasn't uncommon for Judge and Jones to trade profanity-laced outbursts. Jones' trust in his position coach was effectively non-existent. Mac didn't like him, one source said, at all. Judge would speak extra loudly in meetings, trying to project like he was the guy, another source said. And I think that kind of rubbed people the wrong way. End quote. All right, let's deep dive this topic. We got Andrew Callahan, Phil Perry still here, and Sports Illustrated's Breer. Let's start with Breer. It seems, based on this article today, I thought, well, there's no chance Joe Judge is coming back to the Patriots. Like, they're going to move in a different direction. Is he coming back?
My understanding is Joe Judge is going to be on the 2023 staff in a different role. He's not going to be coaching the quarterbacks, but he does have a role carved out. He'll be making the trip to Las Vegas tomorrow. I think the other supervisory people are going tomorrow. Bill went today, but Billy O'Brien and Gerard Mayo, I believe, will go tomorrow as well. And, you know, I think there's still value for Joe Judge on the staff. He's a good football coach. I think this was just a sort of different sort of situation that he was put in, that maybe he should have some self-awareness and not take the job. But, you know, I think he was doing the best he could. And Matt Patricia's status, I think, is a little bit more up in the air here. I don't think you'll see him in Vegas over the next few days.
Can I just ask you, do we know what role Joe Judge will be in?
TBD. I have an idea of where that might shake out, but nothing's final yet.
So it's just really interesting to me, Trenni, because obviously what happened last year didn't work. And if your ownership, obviously it was pretty clear, based on the release that they sent out, unprecedentedly so, a couple of weeks ago, that they were going to be searching for an offensive coordinator and that this person was going to have the title. Unprecedented, right? So ownership is now invested in making sure that things change, and things will change with Bill O'Brien on the staff. But if Joe Judge is on the staff and it's in a critical role and things don't go well again, how does that reflect not on Joe Judge, but on Bill Belichick?
One thing I would add, too, and I think this is an important nuance, and Andrew did an awesome job with the story, but I do think that I think Belichick feels responsible for a lot of what happened on offense. And I do think that there was more involvement. Belichick had more involvement in play calling than anybody knows, on the headsets, on game day. And so, I think that there is a feeling that Matt Patricia is taking a bullet here and has taken a bullet for a lot of stuff that there were multiple people involved with. And so I think on Bill's part, there is at least a little bit of an effort to do right by Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, who he put in a very difficult position in 2022. And we know that they aren't going to be in the roles they were in last year, but he's got loyalty to those guys. And I do think those guys have some value to the organization.
But is that in the best interest of the team? And I'm not saying that Joe Judge might not be, I don't even know what role he'll do. We'll just say he goes back on special teams, right? Like, he was a good special teams coach, or he's an advisor to someone. I'm not saying he's not capable of that, but if we take what Andrew and Karen wrote and we look at the rancor that was in that locker room, to bring that person back when you're trying to change the culture and you had a terrible year, at least from the outside looking in, I'm like, what kind of message does that send? That your loyalty to someone who had a ton of problems with your team is more important. Like, once again, it feels like it's not what's in the best interest of the football team.
I think Bert's right, though, in that the position Joe Judge was put in was not only something that he was ill-suited for last year, but it's a highly specialized position. At least offensively, defensively, you have counters. You coach offensive line, you have a decent idea of what the defensive line does. He jumps into quarterbacks with a player who's, let's just admit it, probably not the easiest to coach in Mac Jones, given how intelligent he is, maniacal with his work ethic. You know, if that doesn't work out, yes, it's going to have a trickle-down effect, because Mac Jones is a leader. He's a captain. He is the quarterback. I think you could put him in a position that's a little bit easier to coach, and I'm not saying any position is easy to coach. Don't throw me out there. But whether it's back on special teams or something where the assignments are fewer, it's not as specialized, the fundamentals come across different positions, that might be a little bit easier for him to handle, like he did in 2019 coaching receivers and special teams.
Don't take this, I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way, but quarterbacks are kind of like golfers or tennis players. And I know that's going to sound funny because Mac actually was a tennis player. Yeah. But it really is true. I mean, a lot of times these guys are coached a certain way from the time they're 10 years old. They have personal coaches. They come up differently. They're drafted differently. They're paid differently. It's just a different position in general. And Joe did play it at one point. But coaching is a different kettle of fish.
But also, and can you just add a little bit to this, that there are anecdotes that Joe Judge would go to other positional coaches and try to tell them what to do, and it was the wrong thing, and then those coaches would have to go back and fix that. Like, it seems like if it was just an isolated incident of just the quarterbacks and just offense, but it seems like it ran a little deeper.
And again, this goes to Belichick. I mean, we heard from him at the owners' meeting saying Joe is going to coach the quarterbacks. He'll coach the receivers and the tight ends. Matt Patricia is going to be across the offense. I mean, he was asking him to drink from a fire hose and learn on the job at the same time. It was never going to work. So I do think that is an issue and something that needs to be addressed. But again, he has experience with the receivers. If you just say stick to this position, it's the same fundamentals and techniques and the reads within the offense. Let the other coaches more experienced and better suited to handle this. I think it can work. You just need time and to go back to the buy-in.
I think that the one thing too, like I think the original plan was, and they couldn't give him the titles because of the pay, and I think you'd agree with this, Joe Judge pass game coordinator, Matt Patricia run game coordinator. And
Joe Judge still really heavily involved in a situation that really didn't go well last year. And again, so I think the risk would be on Belichick's end. If they go 8-9 again and the offense doesn't perform again, what does Bill Belichick's future look like? How does Robert Kraft react to that? After having the year they just had, and to have Joe Judge now, he's not the quarterback's coach, he's the pass game coordinator. And I know what you're saying, that might actually be sort of in some ways, might be a step down or a lateral move, but it still sounds pretty significant.
Well, no, I mean, that was what the plan was initially in 2021.
Yeah, we'll see how it shakes out. All right, Mac Jones didn't hide his frustration with the coaches, including after a loss to the Bills in December.
I think it's accountability. It starts with me, and I think I want to be coached harder. I want to be a better player, and the coaches have given us everything they've got, and they've done everything to put us in position to win. But I want to hold everybody accountable, including myself.
You know, Bert, I know you just said, like, a lot of times quarterbacks are like golfers or tennis players, right? They're sort of individually driven. But do you have to kind of give Mac a pass for last year because of all the things that were going on around him?
No.
Oh, yeah, the
no.
Is the no.
I mean, look, like, at the end of the day, there's a reason why those guys are paid differently. There's a reason why they're drafted differently. There's a reason why they're separate from everybody else, and that's because it's the most important position on the field. And I look at, like, the way other young quarterbacks have handled adverse situations, all right? Look at the way Trevor Lawrence handled the Urban Meyer situation. Look at the way Joe Burrow handled playing behind a completely deficient offensive line his first 2 years in the league. Look at the way Justin Herbert handled having his head coach fired. He's now on his third offensive coordinator in 4 years. I look at every one of those situations and I'm like, that's worse than what Mac Jones had.
But I don't know that it is worse.
I would disagree with it being worse. Trevor Lawrence had two offensive coaches on the staff that had 40 years as quarterbacks, coaches, or offensive coordinator experience. Darrell Bevell and Brian Schottenheimer, right? Like, he had guys that had built offenses before. Even if you're on your third offensive coordinator, at least those guys have been on the offensive side of the ball coaching on offense before. Like, I look at what Mac Jones dealt with last year. That was unprecedented in terms of the offense, how it was constructed, how it was put together. I think the biggest thing that they get now in Bill O'Brien is they get somebody who has answers. And you guys did a great job of detailing this in the story, Andrew, about the questions that people would ask behind the scenes and say, well, what if the defense does this? And the answers weren't there for them. I think as soon as you bring in a legitimate coordinator who has that experience, who knows what questions will pop up on game day and has the players prepared, that is going to go a long way in terms of making everything better. And even those situations were bad, at least I think they had more answers than what the Patriots had this past year.
Instability, which is what you're talking about, and inability. Like, that's the difference.
I'm talking about the quarterback's handling of it. Like, the way that those guys handled it was they handled it like franchise quarterbacks. I don't think Mac Jones handled last year like a franchise quarterback.
That's on the nail, because give him a free pass is to absolve them of everything. And at some point in November, in December, at the start of January, he has to ask himself, looking at the tape of him throwing his hands up like this and screaming on the sideline, how does this help my football team? Because if this is what that's all about, and that's not helping, stop it right then. Because in the beginning of August, after the worst practice I'd ever seen, Phil, I think you did too, David Andrews got the whole offense together, screamed his head off, he was hot, he was animated. And the days after that, the message from him, another captain like Mac, was patience. Patience with the coaches. We can empathize with the frustration. It was a totally ill-fit situation. He was not going to succeed. But at some point, you're in charge of your own actions. And Mac, I think, stepped over the line and hurt what was obviously, a bad situation.
All right, well, it appears that there's nowhere to go up from here for the Patriots offense, from Patricia and Judge running the show to Bill O'Brien. So can he be the savior the Patriots need? The Patriots did officially announce the O'Brien hire today, and Belichick couldn't stop gushing about him Just kidding. I'm looking forward to
We got a quote.
Bill
That's
again.
more than
He is an outstanding coach and an asset to our staff. Coincidence that on the day this article came out, guys, this
That
statement came
sounded
out.
A couple hours later.
It's a little funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe somebody was trying to change the narrative or something. I don't know.
2-sentence statements, though. That's consistency from the Patriots. Got one of those a couple weeks ago, too.
I mean, finally some consistency. Does he fix everything, Phil? Like, does he come in and a magic wand is waved and all is forgotten from 2022?
Players are encouraged by this hiring already because what people will tell you that have experience with Bill O'Brien is he is no BS. And they've dealt with some BS, is what I've been told. That's how it's perceived the last couple of years, really, here in New England. And so as soon as you bring somebody in who is the word you guys used in the article today, which is a great word, we don't use it enough in general, disheveled. I think it was somebody's quote was actually in there, so I won't give you credit for that. It was somebody else who actually said it. What I've been told is just disorganized. And you could even go back to week 1, and it was apparent then with Mac Jones trying to talk to almost every member of the offense on the field, trying to get things straightened out, and it's like playing a game of telephone. And why does he have to do that? Because protection adjustments aren't built into the offense. Route adjustments aren't built into the offense. Having freedom at the line of scrimmage is a great thing. It's something we talked about a lot this past year. Does Mac have it? Does he not have it? Freedom's great. A lot of times you would love not to have the freedom or not to have to use the freedom to adjust things at the line of scrimmage because you prepared so well and so thoroughly that the answers are already there for you. They didn't have that last year.
Again, I go back to something I said at the open, is that we learned the limits of the guy at the top, the power that he has, Bill Belichick, because the assistants underneath him obviously were inadequate. Bill O'Brien's a great start. You couldn't have a better start. Who's the offensive line coach? Who fills in at tight end? Who's going to be running backs, receivers, all that? That matters a whole lot. To Phil's point, though, and how disheveled it was, there were practices last year where Matt Patricia was the only offensive coach, and this didn't make the story, for walkthrough, the initial period to say, here's the plan, because the rest of them were finishing different scripts and coming up the stairs, and it was late. I don't think that's going to happen with Bill O'Brien. I think they're going to be on the same page, have a game plan, and run with it.
Bert, is Bill O'Brien going to be able to pick the guys that he wants for those positions Andrew's talking about?
Yeah, he's going to have input. I think some of those meetings are actually going to happen in Vegas. I think the Clem meeting could wind up happening in Vegas. They could wind up meeting with Sean Jefferson in Vegas. So I think there's going to be some productivity on that end there, too. And I'd agree with these guys. I think Bill O'Brien's the perfect guy because I think the fact that he comes from Alabama is relevant. I know they didn't work together there, but there is a base of what the Alabama offense is that Nick Saban makes all the coaches work off of. So now Bill O'Brien not only knows what Mac Jones was working off of as a rookie, he also knows what he was working off of as a collegian. So I think there's a chance for Bill O'Brien to build something that really works for Mac Jones.
Andrew, great work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for giving us something to talk about.